Sorry for the delay in getting started. We were having a few technical issues. So hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for part 2 of our webinar series on marketing for mentoring. My name is Katie Mouton, and I am the digital marketing specialist at Insala. I'm joined by my colleague, Matthew Heilman.
Hello, everyone.
Before we tell you about ourselves, we do want to cover a few housekeeping items. The webinar is being recorded and is going to be sent via email to everyone, so you'll have a chance to rewatch it at any time. And you can also feel free to share it with your colleagues. We have muted all of our participants, but we encourage you to ask questions throughout the discussion by typing them in the questions window at the bottom of the toolbar. We do answer those throughout the webinar, so anytime you want to talk to us, you can do it there. If we're unable to answer your questions in the time we have, please feel free to follow up with us after the webinar. We will give you our LinkedIn information so you can connect with us there, and also you can always email us at info@insala.com. Lastly, don't forget to get social. We encourage you to tweet during the webinar using hashtag InsalaWebinar. All right, we also want to give you some information about Insala. For those of you that may not be familiar with us, we're a leading global provider of web-based talent development software and consulting. We offer a variety of consultant-driven products ranging from mentoring, alumni, coaching, career development, and offboarding solutions. Our mission here is to connect organizations and people throughout their shared career journeys. All right, here's those housekeeping items that we discussed earlier. All right, so we want to just take a second to introduce ourselves. If you haven't been on one of our webinars before, as I said, my name is Katie Mouton. I am the digital marketing specialist at Insala. I have been doing digital marketing for about 10 years, and I've been with Insala for about a year and a half. Marketing is my passion. I love marketing. It's a great career to be in. It's always exciting and always changing, and I love teaching people about it. So this series is especially exciting for me, and it's been really great being able to learn more and share the information that we have. Matthew, would you like to tell everyone a little about yourself?
Sure. My name is Matthew Heilman. I've been in Insala now for about 4 years. I am the training implementation specialist, kind of wear a lot of different hats here in Insala. I actually recognize some names in the audience today, so welcome back to those of you that I've worked with previously. I also do some account management here at Insala. Definitely, I'm very excited to be working with Katie on this because I've had many implementations under my belt here at Insala, and Katie's going to be able to provide us with the marketing aspect for that today. So very excited to do this webinar. And again, welcome to everyone joining us today.
All right, so let's get started. This is our agenda for the day. So if you were on our last webinar, this is going to look really familiar to you. We're talking about the who, the what, the when, and the where. A little different. Last time we talked about marketing before your mentoring program starts. This time we're talking about marketing during your mentoring program. Yes, that is a thing. So we're going to give you more information, but this is the agenda that we're going to go through. As I said before, if you have any questions during any of this, please feel free to reach out in the questions box. All right, before we get started, we want to run a little poll for everyone. This is something we do like to do. All right, so if everyone would please make your selection. Did you join us for part 1 of this webinar series? Got a couple of yes options and a couple of no options. I'm hoping we get a lot of yeses. All right, let's see. Got some votes coming in.
Exciting. Some of you watched the recorded session, so I'm glad you're able to join us this time live. Very nice.
All right, so it looks just about everyone has voted, so I'm going to go ahead and share those results. All right, so 47% said yes, they participated in the live webinar. Thank you for joining us. 12% you watched the recorded webinar, and then 41% have not done so yet. For those of you that would like to see the first one, I have shared the link to that in the chat box, so you can go ahead and view that at any time. It is recorded for you. So let's get back to our information and get started. All right. So this is just kind of a quick recap of part 1 for those of you that haven't seen it yet. these were just some little tidbits that we wanted to share that we discussed last time. So some big takeaways from the first webinar, and as I said, this is before your mentoring program starts. You want to know who you're talking to. It's really important to define your target audience. We gave a couple examples of target audiences. It could be new hires, it could be millennials, it could be people that you're hoping to get in your succession pipeline. There's a lot of different ways to differentiate for your target audience, so it's really important to know who you're talking to. Also, plan what you're talking about. Make sure you define that message and you get a plan going so you have an idea of what you're going to say to your audience, and really think about what they want to know about your program to get them to join it, because what you're doing before your program starts is really trying to recruit mentors and mentees. Determine how will you communicate. We've got email, we've got events, we've got bulletins, internal meetings. There's so many ways to reach out to these people. Figure out what works for your organization. Also, create a marketing plan. Marketing is all about planning. I spend most of my time making plans for what we're going to do for marketing, so it's really important. In the last webinar, I did give an example of a marketing plan that I actually put together for Ensala. So if you go back and watch that, you will see an example of that. Also, this is a big one, and we're going to talk more about this today. Be consistent. If you're going to do marketing and for anything, it's important to be consistent, get your message out there, and keep pushing it out there, because the more consistent you are, the more reliable that you seem. All right, let's jump into part 2. So marketing during your mentoring program. I know a lot of people are going to wonder why. Why are we marketing during your mentoring program? You already have people there. Well, it's a very important step to take, and it's something that you don't want to forget. You don't just market before. You have to continue to market throughout your entire program if you want to see it become successful. All right, so here's the big why. Why are we doing this? We want to keep your program alive. Your program's success is going to be based on the people that you have in it. So it's not just about drawing these people in, it's also about keeping them engaged in their relationship. You can't let this be put on the back burner, because their success is going to affect your success. If you don't have successful mentoring relationships and people that are truly engaged in them, then you're not going to have a successful mentoring program, because you rely on these relationships to give you the results you're looking for, to have the development you're looking for, and to really give the participants something that they need so that they can continue to talk about you, so you can bring people in. But the big thing that people are wondering is, okay, yeah, we need marketing during our program. How can we do that? So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. All right, so here's our first agenda item, the who. This is a lot like the first webinar that we talked about, target audiences. This is something big. This is something that any marketing professional will talk to you about. Target audiences are really where you figure out who you're talking to. So just like when you were marketing your program before it began, you're going to focus on a set of people here, and that's going to determine the message that you deliver to them. That's going to determine how you deliver that message. It's going to determine when you deliver that message. Answering this question of who is going to set up your entire marketing plan for you. All right, so for during your marketing, for mentoring, this is really going to be defined by 2 audiences. So the first one that we're going to talk about is current participants. These are the people who have already either joined a mentoring relationship or they're currently waiting to be entered into one. So these are your mentors and your mentees. These are the people that you have to keep engaged. They're not just going to go into a relationship and like, oh, this is great. This is my focus for the next 6 months or year or however long your program is. You have to keep them interested because they have so many other things going on. They've got their job, they've got their home life. A lot of times what we see at Ensala is that mentoring relationships are getting put on the back burner because of so many other priorities. So in order to keep them engaged, in order to keep them having this relationship as a priority, that's mentors and mentees, because they both have to be engaged. You have to market to them. That's sharing important content, that's giving them resources. And we're going to go through a lot of those things with you, but this is such an important target audience for you because this determines the success of your program. All right, the other side of things is the new participants. So it's not just enough to bring participants in once. You have to continue to market to the people who are not participating in your program. Because, like I said, you're going to have relationships that last I can't talk today.
Words are hard.
Words are so hard. I have so much to say. It's all fighting to get out. Okay, we're going to try that again. Your program is going to have relationships that last 6 months to a year. Some even go for 2 years. Those are the rare, but they do happen. What happens when that relationship ends? They're not going to jump right into another one. But if you're going to continue to have a program, you have to have participants. So these are the people that you need to continue to market for. The great thing about it is that you've already got this plan, because if you watched our first webinar, we talked about what to do before your program starts. You're going to take that plan and you're going to continue it throughout your entire mentoring program. So you already have it in place. You just have to remember to put it out there.
And it's really important on this too, because a lot of the mentoring programs that I've seen be implemented through Insala is they're either cyclical, so they'll start in January, they'll end in December, or they're continuous. So the reason why this is really important for both those types is because you always want to make sure you have that population. For cyclical, you want to make sure that people know that there's going to be a re-up again, there's going to be a chance to join again, but you don't want to start marketing that in November. You want to get people excited throughout the time. This is also connecting with your current participants, because then they can say, yes, I'm in this program and it's wonderful and it's helping me out. That's part of this marketing, is through word of mouth. So for the cyclical ones, you want to make sure that people know it's going to happen again. And if you're doing a continuous one, which is great because people can join that whenever they want to join that, then at that point, you want to make sure that there's always a group of people that want to join your program, because otherwise you'll get a group of people, and if it goes silent, your program's not growing. And hopefully from a mentoring program, you want it to continually get larger and to include more people to be more successful.
Exactly. And the great thing about, reaching out to these new participants while your program is running, kind of like Matthew said, is that you're able to share your successes with them. And that gives you a whole new type of content to share. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. All right, so moving on, this is what you're saying. This is something that's extremely important, because this is the message that you're delivering. So the big point here is you want to increase engagement for your current participants. That is, as I said before, going to help boost the success of their relationship, because if they're engaged, that means that they really, are in it for the long haul. They want this to work. They want their relationship to be something that is mutually beneficial for them and their mentor, if they're the mentee, or either side. And that's something that you have to really focus on, because these people aren't always going to be able to engage themselves. So this is something that we just really always tell our clients, you have to continue this process. All right, so this information might look really familiar to those of you that have already seen the first webinar. I actually only rearranged the slide. I didn't change any of the information on it. So this was from our first webinar, and this is so important because nothing changes here. It's defining your message. So you have to figure out, why are you creating this content? Whom are you creating this content for? What makes your content different? So this is defining that target audience, figuring out exactly what they want to know, what makes it special, and then getting out there to them so that they actually take a look at it. Because they're going to get tons of emails. They're going to get lots of information in your internal meetings. They're going to go to an event and have so much going on with everyone that they might not get your message if it's not really defined. So it's important to know your goals before you begin planning your message. And you'll have an easier time determining what your best strategy is if that message is truly defined. Knowing your goals, like Matthew kind of mentioned ago, and I'll let him talk about this a little more, knowing your goals and setting your expectations, there's lots of different factors that go into that. Matthew, do you want to talk a little bit about different programs and types and engagement?
Sure. So I've worked with some organizations where they have very small programs, maybe 50 to 100 participants. Then I've worked with organizations that have thousands of participants that are coming into the portal. So it's really important to understand what kind of base that you're starting. One thing in particular is, again, the small and large. The type you're trying to do, if it's diversity and inclusion, if you're talking about career development, leadership. I will say, just a heads up, I've seen some organizations struggle because they don't define what they're trying to do. Like, we want a mentoring program that helps everyone, which is awesome. That's a great plan, but it's having that narrowed focus is where you can really support people. Just like when we do the matching questionnaires and we help our clients with that, we tell them you have to pick. We know you want your mentees to learn everything, but if they don't go in with a defined goal, it's going to be hard to meet that goal. So making sure you know what you're trying to accomplish, how big you are, and how often the participants should definitely be engaged in the program. Because I've seen some where the expectation is that people should be participating on a weekly basis. on a monthly basis, quarterly basis. It's just how often they should be participating in the program, which is going to control your content, because if they're only supposed to be participating once a month, you shouldn't be sending them out 3 different messages a week. That's overkill. But at the same time, if they're supposed to be meeting weekly, sending out an email once a quarter, you're not engaging them enough. So it's a very fine line, but you need to make sure that you understand what you're trying to get out there, and then that'll kind of define how often it should be received by the participants.
Absolutely. I mean, setting those goals, getting those particulars in place is going to set up your marketing plan, and defining your message is going to really hone in on what you're trying to say. What are you looking to achieve here? And that's so important, because your message is what is going to make the difference in either recruiting these people or really keeping them engaged. All right, so we love to have y'all participate. It's one of our favorite parts of the webinar.
Yay.
So in the last webinar, we asked what new participants might want to know. We want to know now what you think your current participants want to know. What is this message that people are wanting to get from you about their relationship? What are they really hoping that you help them with to stay engaged? So if you could please share your answers in the chat box, and we'll go ahead and read some of those out. We just kind of want to get a different perspective, because we have our ideas, but we want to know what the rest of the world thinks. All right, we'll wait for a couple of those to get in. Oh, this is a good one. How do they continue to have constructive conversations as their relationships get older? I like that, and I've actually never heard anyone say that. How to keep up momentum? Yes. These are all really good. I'm seeing a couple more, how to keep up momentum, a couple more on meeting topics, when and how to meet. Yes. What to do if the mentor and mentee aren't setting the same goals. Yes. What can they ask of their mentors? That's a really good one too. How to keep mentees committed throughout the process. Yes, these are all along the same lines that we've seen in the past that people have really wanted to help with, and where marketing is really, yep, there we go. What if the relationship isn't meshing? Yes, we've seen that a couple times as well. Yeah, I mean, I think y'all really get the idea behind the information that people are looking for. And really a great way to do this is sit there and say, okay, what would I want to know? You know, you're marketing to these people, and a lot of the admins that we've talked to of their mentoring program, marketing and mentoring sound too much alike. I'm getting them mixed up. A lot of people that are marketing for their mentoring program, these admins are not marketing professionals. This isn't what you do. And we understand that completely, which is why I get pulled in on a lot of our client calls to help share these ideas. But it seems like y'all really get it. So think about yourself. What would you want to know? And then maybe even have a survey with your participants. Hey, what do you need from us? It's so important to get that message right. Thank you for participating. We love your responses. I think y'all are right on track.
Definitely. And a lot of these items too, I know in the beginning of a lot of mentoring programs, they're addressed in the beginning, but really keeping them engaged is the important part, because getting all this information up front is really beneficial to your mentors and mentees. But until there's actually applicable use for them, like explaining to someone, why is a relationship, if it's not meshing, what should I do? Telling them the day one is good information, but 3 months later, if they need help on that, that's something that should be brought up then. When it's actually needed is when it's going to be very helpful for your mentors and mentees.
Yeah, and that's going to go back to your timing of your marketing. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but that's a really good way to talk about it is, what do you talk about day one? What do you talk about 3 months in? It's going to be different for everyone. So it's really honing in on what they're expecting from you and the message that you share with them. So a big point that I'm going to make today, and I'm probably going to talk about this a couple of different times, is their success is your success. I know I mentioned this before, but the success of the mentoring relationships in your program is going to define how successful your program actually is. If you've got a bunch of relationships that aren't working, then your program's not going to work, because no one's going to benefit from it. And in the long run, the organization's not going to benefit from it. And that's where we see a lot of these programs that are being stopped, that the organizations aren't doing them anymore. If they would have just, gone that little extra bit of effort and put in that marketing plan and continued their marketing after their program was already going, they might have seen it happen a little differently. So, you want to help them make their relationship work. And I think that's kind of what a lot of you were trying to say in many different ways. And there's so many areas you can help with this. We just put a couple of examples. So, tips for being a good mentee, tips for being a good mentor, teaching them how to maintain a successful relationship. My mouth is not working today. Um, we share a lot of articles at Ensala. We post at least one a week, and we try to cover a lot of these topics. We cover them for the participants, and we cover them for the organizations. So I don't have any links to share with you right now, but if you do go to our website, into our article section, we have a great search bar. You can type in just a single word, mentee, and we do have a couple articles on tips for being a good mentee that you can share with your team. So that's always a great resource. There's a ton of research that is on the internet. So you can find so much information. So it's gathering that information, defining your message, figuring out how do I help them be successful, and then pushing that out to them in the right way. This is all part of marketing. A lot of people lump marketing and sales together. And in some aspects, absolutely. I work with the sales department all the time because it's my job to bring in leads for our company. But the other side of my job is to educate. We don't really focus on our product during these webinars because we're looking to educate you on mentoring programs, on how you can be successful and how your participants can be successful, and what information can we give you as thought leaders to help make this happen, whether you're our client or not. It's so important to keep your team engaged and to keep you engaged. So that's what you're looking to do. Yes, you want them to join. You want to sell your program, absolutely. But then you also want to educate and you want to push out information. And that's what your content should really be focused on. Now, the great thing about having these successes is that you can use them to your advantage. This is going to help you communicate to those new participants that you're trying to recruit. You're going to communicate the benefits of the program by using testimonials and success stories. This is going to pull in those new participants. This is kind of the new type of content we were talking about a little earlier. So it gives you a higher standard of content that you're able to push out. So once your program starts, you want to continue to use that recruiting plan that you had in place before, but make sure that you take all of the new information that you have and use it to your advantage, because it's really going to make a difference.
Right. And definitely for using that for the recruitment is definitely great because people can see, oh, people are being successful. I want to join. But also for those mentors and mentees in current relationships that they're kind of like, well, I don't know what I'm getting from it. Hearing those testimonials to say, oh, wow, they really were able to develop this on their professional career, or they learned this, that can give them ideas on how to re-engage their relationships and seeing, well, if they can accomplish that, we can accomplish that. So it really works both ways. It's content that can recruit, but also maintain.
Yeah, and I think that when you look at the different types of content you can share, you've got articles that you can write. This is a perfect place for these to be. If you have a testimonial, if you've got a great article on tips for being a good mentee, and you've got a couple of quotes in there, some from mentees that had a successful relationship, that is going to take your content to the next level. It's going to show people like, wow, these are real people, or hey, they're in our organization. I worked with them last week. It's great to know that they had that success. The content becomes more reliable because you're putting that personal spin on it. So it's really important to take this information and use it.
Right. And this is also technically free content. People are giving you the content. You want to know this information and you're sharing it back out. So we know a lot of mentoring administrators. You may have a lot of other things on your plate as well. This way you're getting content sent to you that you can push right back out as new content for your participants.
Absolutely. All right. So when? This is a big one for me. As a marketing professional, I'm constantly going, okay, when are we going to have this webinar? Does it work here? Does it work there? Oh, wait, no, that's a holiday. People might be out, because we really want y'all here and we really want to have your participation because it makes a huge difference in what we're able to share. So having a plan of when your content is going to go out, when you're going to share certain types of content is really a big deal. So on the recruiting side of it, and when you go back to the first webinar that we did on this last month, you have to look at all the different times of when you're going to push your content out. So I know we talked about, okay, so in the beginning, you really just want to have awareness. That's what you want to do. You want to let people know this program's coming. We're really excited about it. You want to share the benefits. And then as certain things get a little closer, so okay, it's almost time to sign up. Don't forget we have this program going, or hey, this is the date that we're going to let mentees sign up. Here's the date mentors are signing up. Here's the date of this event we have to network with people who are going to be in our program. All of that is very easy to plan because you know when it's happening. On the other side of things, when you've got your program already started and you're pushing this out to people who are already participating, that can be a little more difficult. So having a plan in place is going to be absolutely crucial to the success of marketing during your mentoring program. All right, so create a plan. Plan ahead so your marketing works for you. This is where we're going to talk about a content calendar. And on our next slide, we're really going to go into more about the content calendar. But what I want to say about this and making your marketing work for you is, as I mentioned, for a lot of you, you're not a marketing professional. So creating content might take you a little longer, or finding the time to, put events together, write articles, put these email templates together can be extremely difficult. So planning ahead as far as you can is crucial. That's something that I like to do. I like to work 2 to 3 months in advance. So these webinars are actually put together a month in advance. And that gives us time to really market it and without worrying about, oh my God, I didn't actually do the webinar. What am I going to share with these people? What am I going to say? Having that done so far and ahead doesn't leave me stressed out about this day. Having it finished and having it ready to go. So when we meet with our clients, we really push having a content calendar so that we can help them get their plan in place. Now, talking about a content calendar, as you can see on the screen, it says this is a must in all caps because this is so important to help you make your marketing work. So we've heard, like I said, that a lot of admins struggle with a last minute need for content. So if you really have it ready to go, then you're not going to have to worry about it as much. So what I try to suggest to our clients is, have 8 email templates sitting there waiting for you. That way you can rotate them. You don't want to send the same email out to your participants every single week or even every month, because they're going to know it's the same one and they're going to stop opening it. It's not going to be new, fresh information. They're not going to be interested in what you have to say if you're saying the same thing in the same way at the same time of the month every month. It's going to be kind of stagnant. So if you set up your email templates ahead of time, have 8, 10, 12, however many you need, and then you rotate between them, then it's going to seem like fresh content. And even if you're saying the same exact thing, saying it in a different way really catches people's attention. So if you're saying, hey, don't forget to be engaged in your mentoring relationship, and then next month you say, hey, did you know that if you're engaged in your mentoring relationship, you get these benefits? And then you say, hey, mentees, don't forget to get engaged. Now you're speaking directly to someone else. This is going to catch their attention because, like I said, even though you're saying the exact same thing, because it's said in a different way, it makes a world of difference. I'm sure several of you have gotten emails from me about our webinars. I don't send the same email twice. It's not going to happen because you won't look at it. You're not going to pay attention to it. And we really want y'all to come to these and help us educate others and learn. So I have to figure out how to get your attention. You've got to do the same thing with your mentoring content. All right, so this is kind of a very, very simple content calendar that anyone can do. This is a mock one that we came up with as if we were running a mentoring program. So this would be a very healthy mentoring program where we're sharing a lot of content and we have a lot going on. But for me, I would plan all of this ahead. So, it says that we're going to share 2 mentoring articles that month. Well, I'm going to have those done a month in advance. You're sending out a recruitment email once a month. You've got these networking events. You have social media posts. Social media posts can be scheduled. So if you get those scheduled ahead of time, you're not sitting there going, oh my God, I didn't post. So having this content calendar and really honing in on when these things need to be done is going to change the way that your marketing plan works. And it's also going to change how successful your marketing plan is for your entire program.
Right. And definitely the nice thing with what we created here is we purposely made this pretty healthy. And I know we keep saying healthy, but this is definitely scalable. So if you're a smaller organization, you may want to cut this in half on how much you're posting. If you're larger, you may want to have something going on every single day. Because I think a problem with a lot of mentoring programs is they disappear. You get matched with your mentor, and that's it. I've been a part of some where literally they get your mentor and they say, good luck. In a year, you're going to get a survey. And I've seen some where they're constantly tell us more, tell us more. So this is kind of a way to engage people without completely being in their face and letting their mentor and mentee take over the actual relationship. But definitely things like social media, it's letting them know it exists and that you care, and that if they need support, you're available, even though that may not be direct information to support the relationship. Again, it's reminding them you exist. There are administrators in place. This program is something that is actually continue on and living even after they've been matched. So again, I'd probably say this, let's see here, for what I've worked with in the past, this would be a content plan probably for an organization that has more than about 150 mentors and mentees. So if you're working with around that number, this would be a pretty good plan. If you're smaller, again, if there's only 50 participants, they probably don't need to hear from you this much. But if you have thousands of participants, half of these things may go unnoticed just because there's so many people they can't see everything. So definitely this is a great plan. But like Katie said, it's all in the scheduling. It's all about being organized and getting this set up. Because once you've got a good plan in place, you can dedicate a day or two a month to working on this and then scheduling the rest out.
Yeah, and I think taking two things away from what you just said. Number one, be consistent. I said we were going to bring that back up. It's so important. Be consistent. So if you start posting on social media and you're doing it like I have on the schedule, so every other Wednesday, every other Monday and Friday, guess what? People are going to start expecting to see that. So if you miss a Wednesday or if you miss a Monday or Friday, they're going to notice. And if you're not consistent, you aren't seen as being reliable because they're like, okay, well, I haven't seen them post it. They were posting every day and now they're not posting for 3 weeks. What happened? Do they not care? Do they not think that we're seeing this? Do they not want to share information with us? We need their help. This is kind of the same thing that we do just in marketing day to day for Ensala. We make sure that we post to social media every day. If you look on our social media, I don't know the last time we didn't post for a day. That's something that we really push out there, that we're constantly sharing information with you. You're going to get a new article from us every week. It will happen because we have this content plan in place. And it says, this is the day we're posting this article. It's going to happen that day. Of course, minor catastrophes do happen, but but the great thing about a content calendar and about scheduling things out is that really you can plan for those catastrophes. Not saying that this is a catastrophe. This was not a catastrophe, but I had a baby last March. So I was out all of March and all of April on maternity leave. And guess what? We still posted every single day because before I left for maternity leave, I scheduled out 2 months of social media posts. I also went ahead and wrote 8 new articles before I left and had them posted and ready to be scheduled to send out because we post 1 article a week and we post social media every day. Whether I am here or not, it is going to happen. So that's the great thing about having this plan. So it's making sure you have the right message, that you know exactly how you're going to send it out, and that you know when it's going to go out. And having this content calendar is such a huge part of that win. And it's really focusing on what's relevant now. You don't want to share an article on mentoring if you're, about how to make your relationship work 6 months in, if you're only a month in. So it's really, you want to define what is that article. It's not just simply posting article on mentoring. I mean, that's kind of an obvious thing. Right. I would put a title there. Article on mentoring. Okay, we're 1 month in. So how to set up your first month of meetings with your mentor. Something that's extremely relevant, because then not only are you helping them and do they feel like you value them, but you're sharing information that is extremely important to them at that moment in time, because that's the information that they're going to stop and take the time to read, or the event they're going to stop and actually make time to go to. So that's something that's really important. Okay, we do have a question. Just wondering why it depends on the size of the scheme. Ultimately, our participants don't know how many are involved. I understand that if it's a small scheme, you don't want to be investing 70% of your time on comms for the scheme. Matthew, what have you seen as far as the size of the program, or what's happening in investing different amounts of time and effort in the communications?
It just depends on what was given to them up front. It's setting those expectations when you get started. Because like I said, there have been some organizations I've worked with in the past that they explain to them, moving forward, you will meet with your mentor once a month. Here is a strategy guide of what you should talk about during each one of your meetings. This is it. This is done. So that's one way to do your mentoring program, is because it's very ultimately structured, and it's this relationship in the mentoring program is completely focused around those individuals, which is really good. The only problem with that then is you're not really promoting your program. You're getting people into it, and then you're kind of going dark until it's ready to enroll again. So if you're marketing for your mentoring program, you want it to be very public and very visual so they know what's going on. So it really just depends on the expectations. I've seen smaller organizations, like I said, they usually are quieter because they don't have a lot of resources to do this. So if the larger you are, the more you should be promoting the program so that people know it's a thing. Because a lot of the return on investment for organizations, especially with attracting millennials, which is also a webinar series that we did, part of that too is letting people know that it exists. And if you have new workforce people coming in, new employees coming in, and then you're talking about this mentoring program, you could talk about it, but if they're like, well, I don't know anything about this. No one's talking about it. I haven't seen any posts about it. I don't know about this program. Again, this is why you want to make sure that it's being promoted and people know that it exists. Because if it just kind of is intuitive just for the two people, that's great and it's going to be a successful relationship, but no one else knows it's going on, and that can tend to be a problem.
Well, and I think going back to what you said about the size and new people coming in and the word of mouth part of marketing for this is really relevant, because at Ensala we have a very small team here. We're small but mighty, and there's a team of us here in the Arlington office, and it's a small team, but we all communicate with each other constantly. So if we have a mentoring program, I might not have to market it as often because people are going to be talking about it, and I can have that conversation in person and really get things going around the office. Because if it's something that's happening and I'm keeping everyone really engaged, then I don't need to push as much content out. But like Matthew said, if you have a huge organization, if there's 10,000, 100,000 people in your organization, it's going to be much harder, especially if you're global, because we are global too. We have a UK office, we have an office in New York. It's going to be much harder to get people to talk about it amongst each other, because there's so much going on and there's so many people, especially if the program, is really specific. So if it's exclusive, it's only for a certain group of people, you're going to have to do a little more marketing with pushing out content, pushing out emails, having these events, doing a lot of recruitment, because you're not going to get that word of mouth marketing. So I know we kind of went off on that for a minute, but I really hope that answered your question. All right, so this is our last little agenda item we have. Be everywhere. This is something we talked about in the last webinar that we had for this series. It's important to use every single source that you can when sending out these communications. But at the same time, as we've said over and over again, this is going to be specific for your organization. Figure out what works for the people you're trying to reach. What is your it's not just defining your message for your target audience, it's defining how to get that message to them. And it's really important that you hone in on that so that you can make sure they're getting what you're saying. So continue to communicate. Here's a couple of different types of communications that you can do. Email, if you have mentoring software, which Matthew's going to talk a little bit more about that, or any sort of internal communications. So I know we have a comms call. That's what we call it. We have a comms call every week where our entire organization is on a call together, and we go through each department and what's going on and what successes we've had and where we need a little help from each other. We actually just had it this morning. So that's a great place for us to make announcements. So if you have something like that, this is where you want to do it. So bulletin boards, any sort of internal event that you're having, anytime that you can communicate and you feel like you're going to get attention so that you can really explain to them the great things about your mentoring program, that's what kind of communication you want to use. I know I put mentoring software on here. Matthew, do you want to just take just a second and touch on how mentoring software can help someone communicate through marketing?
Sure. So one of the great things with our mentoring platform is we have what we call trigger notifications. So these notifications can go out according to events. The most popular event is after a mentoring relationship started. So like I mentioned earlier in the session today, when relationships are first starting, that's usually when a mentoring program will load the mentor and mentees with the information. This is what you should be doing. This is what your relationship should look like. These are the expectations. And that's great to get them started on that. But the problem is 3, 4, 5 months in, those expectations start to fade if you're not being actively engaged with your mentors and mentees. So what our system can do is say, oh, now this person's been in a relationship for 4 months, spit out this email, and this email is going to say, you've now been in your relationship for 4 months. Here's what you should be doing. Working on a learning plan, communicating with each other on a regular basis, reaching out for these resources. And by the way, here's something that mid-relationship people would be really interested in knowing more about. So this can be completely accomplished without software. The only issue is you don't have to do it. And I know there's already been a little bit of concern about, I'm trying to run this program. I don't have time for all this content and all this marketing. And that's why this software really works out for a lot of people, because you set it up and then you forget about it. It's done. The program will push out all the content to people as time goes on. So you can just kind of sit back, analyze, overview, see how relationships are going. And you're not having to focus on, okay, it's March 23rd. I got to get this email out. The system's going to kick all that out for you so you don't have to worry about it.
Well, and I think that goes back to what I was saying about the content calendar and really finding ways to make this easier on yourself and make your marketing work for you. Schedule out everything that you can. So, Matthew said, 3, 4 months in, 6 months in, 8 months in, whatever you want to set your trigger. And there's email marketing software out there that sends emails based on triggers too. And however you set your triggers, you can plan out your entire year of content as far as emails go. I mean, it's really important just making sure that this is relevant. The other thing, and I mentioned it earlier, is making sure that the type of content you're sending out is right for that person at that time. And that's another great point of these triggers, is you don't want that 4-month email going out to someone 1 month in, because they're going to be very confused. So, plan out your entire year. Get it done, get it out of the way, and then you can just sit back and kind of analyze. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So, it says evaluate your recruitment plan. So this is taking it another step from your recruitment. So you did recruiting before your program started. You're going to continue recruiting. But the other thing that is great about your recruitment plan is it's going to tell you, how did this work for me? We're talking about where right now. Did the way I communicated this message work? Did the email work? Did it work in this event? So you want to take it, did it work? Okay, yeah, it worked, but can I improve it? No, it didn't work at all. I have to improve it. So you're going to look at, okay, were these emails clicked? Did people show up to my event? What's happening here? So you have to really look at what were you doing before the program started? What are you going to do now for recruitment? But also, how do you take what you learned in your recruitment plan and push it towards what you're doing for your current participants? Because it's very likely that whatever they kind of responded to during recruiting, they're going to continue to respond to while they're in your program. So, were my links clicked? Did those types of communications worked? Was there discussion happening around the organization? Word of mouth is going to be your biggest marketing tool, but you have to give them the information to talk about. So the big thing here is meeting your goals. If you're not meeting your goals, figuring out exactly how you change your plan so that you can. And that's where the where comes in, of figuring out where you're going to communicate with these people. Because if you're not hitting that part just right, they're never going to see your message. And all the work that you put in is kind of irrelevant at that point because no one responded.
Yeah, and definitely the reevaluating the recruitment makes a cyclical cycle of like, we started here, here's where we're ending up, here's where we should be going. But I will say that is a struggle that I've seen a lot of our mentoring clients struggle with, is that You really want to have a great program. You want everyone to be engaged. But if you're one person getting all that engagement, all that content, plus doing the data analysis at the end of the day, that's a lot of work for one person. So I know everything we're describing right now, it's a lot of work up front. But the nice part is once it's done, it's kind of set and forget. You're reviewing, revising, and editing. It's just the initial getting it started that's the big hit. So once you've got that done, if you can get your marketing team to support you or other people on your team to support you to get this going, then it's only a downhill or uphill. I'm trying to figure out the best way to say that. It gets better. It gets better. There's the best way to say it.
You're going downhill. Downhill's easier than uphill. That's how I remember it. It's easier to go downhill than it is to go uphill. So, we're reaching the end of our webinar here. We're about to do a recap, and then we're going to have a little bit of time for your questions. So if you have any questions for me and Matthew, please go ahead and put those in the questions box. We're just going to have a few minutes, and then any that we don't get to, we can email you out afterwards. So go ahead and answer those questions while we recap really quick and then go over a couple more things with you. So a couple things I just want to remind everyone. It's up to you to keep your program alive. People are, just like when you were recruiting in the beginning, people are not just going to come because it's there. The build it and they will come, quote, does not work for mentoring programs. So you have to keep your program alive, and you have to do that by constantly recruiting and also keeping your participants engaged so that they have these successful mentoring relationships. I said it without getting tongue-tied, that word. So that's what it is. Help them stay engaged, help them succeed. Have a plan. Having a plan is huge. You need a plan for your message. You need a plan for how you're going to communicate these people, when you're going to do it. Have your content calendar. You also need a plan for how you're going to do it. Is it going to be email? Is it going to be a meeting? Is it going to be an event? What works for your organization? Please make sure that you make this specific to your needs, your goals, and what works for you. Also, continue to communicate. This has to be ongoing. Your marketing plan cannot stop once your program starts, and it cannot stop a year in. It's got to go as long as your program is going. It's going to really make a difference, and you'll see an increase in the amount of success that you're having. Last but not least, I've said it multiple times, I'll say it again, be consistent. The more consistent you are, the more reliable you are, and the more people are going to take your marketing seriously. So it's important to keep your message out there and keep pushing, because I promise you, your participants are going to appreciate everything that you do. All right. Let's see. So a couple of things coming up for us. We have an ebook out on all of the content we've shared in the past 2 webinars. That is going to be launched on March 21st. You will all get an email about that with a link to download it. We're going to have a lot more stats. It's not just going to be everything we talked about. It's going to be even more. So please be on the lookout for that. We're really excited about that ebook coming out. Also, April is going to be Alumni Month for Ensala. For those of you, I know we talk a lot about mentoring. For those of you that don't know, we also have Alumni Network software. It's something that's really big right now. More organizations are getting into offering a network for the employees that are actually leaving. And you can get some really great benefits for your organization by having one of these alumni networks. So we are going to do a webinar in April. We don't have the date set, but I'm thinking somewhere mid-April before the Easter holiday, where we're going to talk about these benefits and really how your organization can benefit from investing in an alumni network. So that's happening in April, as well as a couple of ebooks and a lot of articles and a ton of great content for alumni. So we hope you join us for that one. All right, let's see. I don't see any new questions, which I kind of think is a good thing. That means we did our job and we shared lots of content. We still have a couple of minutes left, so if you do have questions, just put them there. Let's see. I have our LinkedIn links to share with everyone. Matthew and I love connecting with y'all.
We do.
So if you want to find us on LinkedIn and connect with us, I'm going to put our links into the chat box. So just go click on those, click connect. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love any feedback that you have about our webinars, or if you have any questions. We're always happy to talk to everyone.
Katie, I did see one question come in. It's talking about what is the best way to communicate with people? So out of emails and face-to-face and webinars, what do you consider to be the best way to communicate the message of a mentoring program?
I think, as I said, word of mouth is your bread and butter. that's where it's going to really get going for you. Word of mouth, because they're getting it from someone that's not you. Of course, word of mouth is a little more difficult because you're relying on other people. Something that I always tell Matthew is that the more you ask of people, the less they're willing to do. So asking them to go out and talk to people, for some people, that's just really hard to do. They don't have the personality, they don't feel like they have the time. So while word of mouth is the best way to market, it's also one of the hardest. So if you're looking at just what you can do, I would say email. Everyone has an email account, especially if you're in an organization. Everyone checks their email account throughout the day. So it's really finding these ways to get these emails out, figuring out how to say them, having the right subject line is huge. I call it clickbait. You don't want to put something very vague just to get them to open your email. You want it to be straight and to the point and direct. When you get an email from me, it says, hey, don't forget to sign up for our webinar. I'm not being vague about what I'm sending to you. I want you to know this is about an Ensala webinar because I want you to understand exactly who this is coming from and exactly what it's about. So I would say email for most organizations. The smaller organizations, I would even say events. We have a lot of great events at Ensala. Like I said, our Arlington office is very small. So we actually had a little happy hour last Friday where everyone, at 4:00, we all met up in our kitchen area and we sat down and we had some food and we had a lot of great conversation. And if we were doing a mentoring program, that is where I would have started everyone talking about it. Now, we did talk about this webinar. We also talked about the ebook. So there was a lot of marketing talk, and that's somewhere that you can really get an audience and get the focus that you need because everyone's in a very casual environment. And it's a fun time and you can have those great conversations, and that's where you can really promote by word of mouth.
Great.
All right. I'm not seeing any other questions. We really appreciate everyone that was able to join us. We love being able to share information with you, and we appreciate your participation. It makes a world of difference in what we're able to send out to everyone. This was recorded, and I will be sending it in an email to all of you in about an hour, probably. We're going to get it done pretty quick today. So I hope that you're able to rewatch it or share with your team. And also I hope that you're excited about the ebook and you're ready to download that on March 21st.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us.
All right. Y'all have a great day. Thank you. Bye.